So in this mini lecture, we're going to look at the influence of the international policy influencers. And outside of our own nation state, depending on whatever country you're in, what year it is, what kind of ideological governance forum that your country has, whether it's a democracy, a theocracy, whatever it is, you actually are also, I suppose, we're not isolated countries in the world. We're living continents. We live in, with all we can see now, with all the world leaders, how interconnected we are. We've talked about global citizenship education, but we have to wonder out loud what that would mean now in the particular confusion of the world politics that we're living in the moment. So we're researching in a fast globalising policy process in education. It's in a neoliberal imaginary, but Gersley and others and historians have said that's changing. The neoliberal imaginary is changing, it's moving. So where does it move to? So as people, do we want to get together and move it into a new decolonial imaginary? Or will it be moved for us by technology into a new technoscience with algorithms, with artificial intelligence? Will that move along fast? And will that overshadow everything else? So that's what's actually happening in the world at the moment with this fast globalising policy. And we have then what's called the GERM, which is the global education reform movement that is actually happening fast and furious, and is looking at learning outcomes, management metrics, and is actually calling education a data-driven system of performance that can be managed and can be measured, and is not really interested in any complexity, so doesn't really want the word culture in there, doesn't want history in there, doesn't want any spiritual connection to our humanity, really needs to leave all of that on the outside to be able to go fast and furious. So we've issues of values there at the centre of policy in terms of who we are, again, in terms of our human subjectivity. So we have this an authoritative allocation of values then by the state given, and then that will determine what is sayable and what is not sayable. And at the moment we have, as I said, the primacy of the economy, and we have human capital theory in there, and that would if you give primacy to the economy and to national security, it's not that they're not needed. It's just if you give them primacy, it means that ethics, social, cultural, and other aspects of our humanity become secondary. So then we're not saying education is an open ethical question then at that point. So we have given priority to something else. So it's not saying that the economy is not important or that issues of national security are not important. It's just the pride of place that they take. And so Ball and Collet Sabé have written a very, very good book actually explaining what's actually happening in that regard across the world at the moment. So these global policy influencers then, for example, our Irish government, our Department of Education and Youth, for example, would pay a lot of attention to what has been said through the European Commission, through the European Commission advisors, through OECD documents, etc. So these are all global policy influencers. So as well as all of the other policy actors in a country, the outside actors are playing a more and more and stronger part. And so we moved from education to have standards, and now we're moving more towards standardization. And Lee Schulman in the past said that if we move it from standards, which are needed, we need to have standards in our work, but if we move to standardization, there's a danger that we take the heart and soul out of education then. We actually just colonize it, dominate it, domesticate it, and neutralize it. So these are all of the different think tanks, corporate philanthropists, etc. They all have vested interests, as well as, of course, the churches. And the churches are deeply interested in what happens in education, and they've always had a very strong influence in Ireland. For example, the ethos of each school and all of the connection to the schools in Ireland, to the churches, is the ethos of the school. And the Catholic ethos, for example, or the Protestant ethos in schools is protected in the Irish Constitution through the Education Act. So, and of course, that is not unusual at all, given that the connection to that human, I suppose, that the greater holistic human development that I was talking about is going to be in there in the space. So all of these global policy influencers are playing out in education nowadays. I'm working with the European Commission on a scoping study myself, which is looking at bringing back the social sciences and humanities back into education. And I have published a recent study on that. The European Commission is now thinking about the future and actually understanding, of course, that a green and digital transition will happen in the coming years. And it's asking itself out loud, how will that green and digital transition be brought about through education in a fair and sustainable way, and through sustainable partnerships and transformational partnerships? And these are the kinds of questions that are being asked by large policy influencers in the world at the moment.